Hello students, welcome to Byju's IS. Welcome to a session on economy this week, wherein we will be taking some of the very important articles from various business related newspapers and we'll be analyzing these particular articles. For this particular video, I've chosen the time period from 17th of August to 23rd of August 2020, and the articles that I've chosen are from Business Line, Hindu, Business Standard, Indian Express and Live Mint. Let's begin the discussion. The first article is related to financing fiscal deficit. Although the heading is on financing fiscal deficit, there is a very short discussion given on the idea of a financing fiscal deficit. Apart from this, what else is discussed in this particular article? First point, they have discussed the transfer of a dividend from RBI to Government of India. RBI has transferred somewhere in the range of 57,000 odd crores to the Government of India in the form of a dividend. This is much lesser than 60,000 crores which has been budgeted by Government of India in this year's budget. Now, why RBI transfers the dividend? It is for a simple reason. RBI is owned by Government of India. RBI one side makes certain expenditures and earns income. And generally we have seen that RBI's income generation is very high compared to the expenditure incurred. Now, because of this, we basically say that RBI earns certain profits and part of the profits will be transferred to Government of India. Now, generally we use the term dividend in case of companies, but remember this, RBI strictly speaking is not a company, hence we basically use the term transfer of surplus. Second point, if you see this particular transfer of surplus, last year the transfer of surplus was somewhere in the range of 1.7 lakh crores to the government, which helped a lot in adjusting the financials for the Government of India. And this year the transfer is just above 57,000 crore rupees. Next very important point, RBI's accounting year or financial year for this particular financial year or in this particular fiscal will be only for a period of 9 months. Please be very careful with respect to this. Generally we say financial year or accounting year will have 12 months. But the RBI's accounting year is different compared to the Government of India's accounting year. In case of Government of India, the accounting year is from 1st of April to 31st of March. And in case of RBI, the accounting year will start from the 1st of July to the end of June. But very recently, one of the committees which was set up by Government of India to look into economic capital framework of the RBI, that is Bimal Jalan Committee, has recommended that even RBI's accounting year should be equal to the Government of India's accounting year or the financial year. That is a precise reason. In this particular year for RBI, the accounting year will start from 1st of July but will end on the 31st of March, thereby ensuring that the accounting year for both RBI as well as the Government of India will be on the same pattern. That is another very important point given in this particular article. Now, apart from this, the fourth very important point is with respect to financing the fiscal deficit. In earlier videos, we have had a lot of discussion with respect to the idea of a financing of fiscal deficit. It basically means RBI will provide money for Government of India to bridge the deficit that is there in the financials of the government. Generally, we say that RBI will print fresher currency and provide these particular currencies for Government of India to bridge the deficit that is there. This particular process is referred to as a financing of the deficit of the Government of India. Very recently, RBI has shown a willingness to start financing the deficit of Government of India. So these are the four very important points which have been discussed in this particular article. Now, based on this, I have given one straightforward question here. Generally, we see that in UPSC, there will be questions on the committee's recommendations, reports, so on and so forth. In this particular respect, I have given one question with respect to the committee. And I have already mentioned the answer to this particular question. The question is, which of the following committee has given the recommendation regarding economic capital framework of RBI? And the right answer is Bimal Jalan Committee. And since I am discussing the name of the committee or mentioning the name of the committee, please also make a note of this particular committee, Janak Raj Committee. Why? This particular committee gave a recommendation for external benchmarking in the interest rates that RBI has introduced in the last year itself. And as a result of this, today the loans which are given to various industries or MSME sector or the housing loan, all of these particular loans are on the floating rate of interest which are based on the external benchmarking. With respect to Nachiket More committee, it is related to promotion of a financial inclusion. So these are some of the very important committees that you will have to remember for UPSC prelims. The next article is with relation to forex reserves. In recent times, India's forex reserves have ballooned to record high numbers. As per the latest numbers, or as per the numbers given in this particular article, the forex reserves have ballooned to $538 billion. And this particular forex reserves are the fourth largest in the world as of now. Now, what else is given in this particular article? For the month of April to August, that is basically from the end of the March to first week of August, the addition to forex reserves was somewhere in the range of $60.38 billion. I repeat, the addition to the forex reserves was to the tune of 60.38 billions between this particular time period itself. And the article says that if the trend continues, the total addition to the forex reserves in the first 4 to 5 months of the current fiscal will be more than total addition to the forex reserves in the last full fiscal. Now you can understand this. For the first 4 to 5 months, how much is the addition to the forex reserves will be much higher than what is the total addition to the forex reserves in the last one full fiscal. And in case of the addition to the last full fiscal, the reserves jumped by $62 billion. And compared to this particular duration, in the last year, for the same duration, the addition was somewhere in the range of $17 billion. Now, what is the reason why there is a huge influx of this particular forex reserves or addition to the forex reserves? As per the article, the important reasons are: one, in the recent times, there has been a lot of inflow of FDI into India, foreign direct investment into India. This particular investment has been flowing to a very great extent. As a result of this, the forex reserves are ballooning. And the second very important reason is the increased prices of gold. Now understand this. What is the impact of increased prices of gold on the forex reserves? The reason is, in case of the forex reserves, the components are the STR, special drawing rights, the reserve transfer position of India at IMF, the basket of foreign currency assets and gold. These are the four very important components of the forex reserves. And in recent times, I said the prices of the gold has increased, and the gold comprises around 6% of the forex reserves as a result of this particular increased prices of the gold. These are some of the reasons why the forex reserves have ballooned in the recent times. Now, what is the importance of this particular increased forex reserves? We already know that it is very important to have forex reserves. Why? You need to pay for the imports. There will be volatilities in the forex market. Yes, these are important. But in recent times, especially in the month of August and September, RBI has been using this particular forex reserves to control inflation. This is an important and interesting concept here. I said RBI is using the forex reserves or the inflow of the dollars to counter inflation rate. What is the connection between both of them? Understand this very carefully. One of the reasons there has been an inflation in the Indian market is said to be imported inflation. Now, what do you mean by imported inflation? India imports huge amount of raw materials, finished goods, intermediary goods, so on and so forth. Very recently, that is a couple of months, there has been a depreciation in Indian rupee. And when there is a depreciation in Indian rupee, the imports will become costlier. And when imports become costlier, don't you think the basket of the commodities which are consumed, the cost will again increase, which will lead to inflation. This is one reason. Second reason, Government of India in recent times has been imposing duties or taxes on these particular goods or imports. That is basically the taxes or duties has been increased compared to earlier time period. The objective of Government of India is said to be promotion of domestic manufacturing. But what it actually will lead to is imports will flow at a higher cost, which will basically add to market cost. As a result of this, inflation can be caused. And the third very important reason why there is inflation because of the imports is because of the crude oil. Couple of months ago, the prices of the crude oil were increasing. As a result of this particular increased crude oil prices in the international market, the import bill of the crude would be higher, and when import bill is higher, market prices of the fuels will also be generally higher. Now, although I am using these particular reasons, please understand these reasons are not applicable for the full financial year. Here and there, you will see that crude oil prices will increase as well as decrease. All of these have basically meant what? There is an inflation in the domestic market because of imports. I want to put a caveat here or a condition here. Although some of the imports are causing the inflation, please understand all the inflation that is caused in India is not because of imports. I repeat the statement. Yes, it is true that imports, when they will become costly, they will cause inflation. In India market, for a simple reason, we will import at a higher cost, sell it at a higher cost. But it doesn't mean that only imports are causing inflation in India. Because aside from imports, if you take into consideration, there are so many issues in the domestic market which have caused inflation rate. Now, Government of India as well as RBI have been focused or are worried about this particular inflation rate. RBI has taken various measures to control inflation rate. One of those particular measures is this. Generally, when you will see the forex reserves are flowing into India or the dollars flowing into India, rupee will start getting appreciated. Is it okay? When dollars will flow into India, the rupee will start getting appreciated for a simple reason. Dollars will flow, demand for rupee will increase, rupee will start getting appreciated. In that particular period of time, RBI used to intervene in the market and ensure there is a stable exchange rate. I can understand this. RBI will intervene in the market and ensure there is a stable exchange rate. By doing what? Sell rupees in the market, purchase more and more dollars so that the rupee and the dollar exchange rate will get stabilized. Now, in recent times, RBI has realized that because of this particular imported inflation, there is a danger of higher inflation rate in the market. So what RBI is doing is, rather than intervening in the forex market, it is allowing the rupee to appreciate against dollar. I repeat the statement. Generally, RBI will not allow the rupee appreciation to a very great extent because again it will have an impact on the trade. So what is RBI doing right now? It is allowing the rupee to appreciate. Now, when rupee appreciates, what will happen? When rupee appreciates, please understand this, it is the imports which will start becoming cheaper. And when imports will become cheaper, the danger of imported inflation will be countered. Have you understand this? When imports will become cheaper, the danger of imports causing inflation will be countered by RBI using this particular system. So this is the implication of increased forex reserves in India. Now, based on this, I have given a question. Consider the following statements. India has the second largest forex reserves in the world. No, as per the recent data, it is the fourth largest. Reverse tranche is a part of the forex reserves held by RBI. Yes. Now, if you want to understand what is a reverse tranche, please follow the discussion here. Basic idea is, when any member or any country wants to become a member of IMF, it has to make certain payment, basically under the concept of quota system. Part of the payment will be left with the respective country, or part of the payment which has to be made by the country to become a member of IMF can be withdrawn, can be taken as a loan by the member country. This particular concept is called as a reverse tranche position. So reverse tranche position is a part of the forex reserves held by RBI. Yes, it is true. Right option will be option B. Only second statement is true. Next, there has been a lot of discussion with respect to the issue of airport privatization in the recent times. This particular discussion started with Kerala government opposing the decision of Government of India to allocate a bid or a tender to one of the private sector companies, Adani's. One of the airports in Kerala was given for a duration of 50 years under public-private partnership to this particular company by the central government. As a result of this particular decision, there has been a lot of discussion, opposition by the Kerala government. Now, what is this particular issue? First and foremost, understand this. Government of India has introduced a concept of a leveraged investment or public-private investment, public-private partnership mode of investment, wherein both the government as well as the private sector will be entering into an agreement called as concessionaire agreement. As a result of this, they will be undertaking development of infrastructure, providing services, etc. The basic model is promotion of investment in a particular area or a sector wherein two parties, the government as well as private sector, are entering into an agreement. This agreement is called as a concessionaire agreement. Now, why this particular PPP is important? Private sector, which has got huge amount of money, will be willing to invest, develop, maintain, do whatever operations are given to them under this particular agreement. And government will opt for this because when private sector is involved, one, you can expect better utilization of resources. Second, government doesn't have all the resources or money that it needs to develop infrastructure, so it is putting the hands in the private sector pocket. So because of this, there has been a lot of interest, especially in last 2 decades, for development of PPP infrastructure projects in India. Now, what is this particular issue here? Government of India has already allocated various airports at cities such as Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore to private sector under the concept of a PPP. And they have seen that there has been an world-class infrastructure developed in these particular airports. Taking this particular initiative forward, Government of India had announced that 6 more airports will be put for bidding like this, and private sector can participate and take out the development of these particular airports. Back in the year 2003, Kerala government had asked the Government of India or had requested Government of India saying that whenever the development of this particular Thiruvananthapuram airport will be taken up, or basically a bid on this particular airport would be called, the central government should consider the state government of Kerala also. Now, why state government of Kerala is involved here? Please understand this. In recent times, we have seen that on one side, central government wants to move out of the business. That is, they are saying that as much as possible, we want to open up the sectors, allow the private sector to participate and contribute to growth, and Government of India will be withdrawing itself. That is the reason they have used a punchline saying that it is not the business of the government to be in business. But on the other hand, we are seeing more and more participation in the business by the Kerala government. For example, in case of a Kochi airport, Kerala government owns 33% of this particular project. So on one side, central government is trying to move away. On the other side, state government of Kerala is trying to move into these particular business operations. So back in the year 2003, Kerala government said, we also want to be considered for bidding. And the central government had stated that, yes, we will consider you also. So in the last couple of years, this particular bidding started, and finally Government of India basically announced that the bid will be allocated for a period of 50 years for this particular private sector company. And Kerala government contested this. The state government of Kerala stated that central government previously had told us that if the bid value between the private sector company and the state government of Kerala was 10% smaller, that is basically Kerala government bid value was 10% in the range of the private sector company or the winning private sector company, then the preference would be given to Kerala government's bid. But the central government recently has stated that it was an open bidding model. As a result of this, whoever wins the highest or whoever bids the highest value or the right bid value, we will allocate the project to whom. It was this particular private sector company. And the second reason was, yes, we had stated that if the difference is 10%, that is the bid value difference is 10%, then Kerala government's bid will be considered. But in reality, the difference in the bid value was more than 17%. Because of these two reasons, the private sector companies bid has been preferred, the bid has been allocated, or the business has been allocated to this particular private sector company, and the Kerala government is opposing this particular infrastructure project. So this is the basic gist of what is given in the article. Now, with respect to civil aviation, I have given one question here. Airport Authority of India is a Navaratna public sector enterprise. This is wrong. Airport Authority of India is Mini Ratna. Please remember this particular point. Mini Ratna category 1 PSC. So first statement is wrong. Second, it is involved in management of the airports and does not own any airport in India. Again, this is wrong, because Airport Authority of India, AAI, owns and manages more than 100 airports all throughout India. Again, owns and manages. And the question is, right, on management and not owning. Hence, this particular statement is also wrong. Right option will be option D, both are false. The next article is related to new monetary policy panel. Now, in the previous videos, again we have discussed a lot of issues related to monetary policy committee. Now, I just want to mention one point here. As per MPFA, monetary policy committee is supposed to hold at least 4 meetings in each of the financial year, and very recently the monetary policy committee has completed its 4th meeting. Hence, the tenure of the monetary policy committee has ended. Now, Government of India has to set up a new monetary policy committee. But please be aware here, out of this particular monetary policy committee composition of 6 members, 3 are from RBI and 3 will be from the experts who are appointed by the government. Now, the Government of India has to appoint these particular 3 experts. For the appointment of these particular 3 experts, a search committee or a search panel has to be set up. And this particular search panel will consist of Economic Affairs Secretary. It will consist of the Cabinet Secretary, RBI Governor, and 3 experts. So this particular search committee will recommend who will be these 3 experts. Next very important point this article makes is, once the new monetary policy committee is constituted, there will be certain very interesting things or various factors that it will have to consider. First, it says RBI has already used up many of the measures that are available with them to counter the rise of the non-performing assets. For example, the loan moratorium. Basically, with the lockdown imposed, these particular methods have already been used up by RBI. Now, it is very interesting to see that what the new monetary policy committee will be using to control the rise of NPAs in the coming days, with the loan moratorium coming to an end. Second, in recent times, the RBI governor has taken certain unilateral decisions with respect to changes in the rates without consulting the monetary policy committee. Now, don't you think because of this, there is a need to relook at the objectives of the monetary policy committee? That is, should the monetary policy committee be deciding all the rates of interest, or should certain leverage or independence be given to RBI governor alone to take the decision? And the third very important point which has been mentioned is the rise in the credibility. So this particular monetary policy committee should take certain measures to increase the transparency in the system, so that the credibility of the monetary policy committee in the market will increase. So these are some of the very important points which are being discussed in this particular article. The next is with respect to curbing food inflation. First and foremost, please understand this. As per the recent data, inflation rate has crossed more than 7%. But out of this particular inflation, that is CPI headline inflation, it is the food inflation which has been inching upwards. As per the article given here, the food CPI inflation or retail food inflation for June was 8.72% and for the month of July was 9.62%. Now there are certain reasons why this particular food inflation is happening. The reasons which are cited are the logistics cost have increased, limited availability of labor was a problem, the vegetable prices, pulse prices have risen. Because of the pandemic, which was followed up by the lockdown which was imposed by Government of India, it has been seen that overall rate of inflation has increased, and so has been the case with respect to food inflation also. However, this article also mentions that with easing of the lockdown measures by the government in the last couple of months, the rise in the food inflation should have been cooling right now, or in simple terms, the prices of these particular commodities should have come down. On one side, the overall production has been increasing. There have been various initiatives which have been taken in the agriculture market which are ensuring that the food is reaching directly from the farm to fork or to the households. And the overall cultivation in recent estimates also has shown that there is a higher production in the agriculture sector. With all of these particular factors, the argument is the market prices should be cooling right now, not increasing or not rising, which basically means there is a danger that there is a practice of hoarding in the market. Now we have discussed the issue with respect to hoarding in the last lecture itself. What this article mentions is the recommendation to overcome hoarding. One of the recommendation which is very important, which has been mentioned and which you can use in the answer writing is the use of the warehouse receipts or negotiable warehouse receipts. Now understand this, there is this particular authority, WDRA, Warehouse Development and Regulatory Authority. This particular authority will issue ENWRs, negotiable warehouse receipts in electronic form, to those particular people who are warehousing or storing their food grains in the warehouses. But please understand, it is the public warehouses or the warehouses which are owned by the government, which are registered under WDRA or with WDRA, which are allowed to issue these particular electronic negotiable warehouse receipts. It is the private sector warehouses which have not been showing any kind of an interest to be registered under WDRA. Now what is the importance of these particular receipts here? The importance is that whenever food grains are stocked into the warehouses, the electronic or digital entry will be maintained as to what has been stored, how much is a quantity. And whenever there is a withdrawal of this particular food grain or any amount of a food grain, again there is a digital or electronic data to show that this much amount of food grains have been withdrawn. So Government of India can simply keep a track of how much is the production, how much is being warehoused, how much is being withdrawn and supplied to the market. This would help Government of India in countering the practice of hoarding. This is discussed in this particular article. Now let's look at the next article, which is related to PSB disinvestment. Now very recently, under Atmanirbhar Bharat, Government of India has stated that government will be identifying certain sectors as strategic sectors, and in these particular sectors, government will be owning only around 4 public sector enterprises. What about remaining? Government of India stated that it will be selling its stake in these particular public sector enterprises and will reduce its stake to around 4 public sector enterprises. Now, keeping in mind this particular point, have a look at this particular article. Government of India wants to sell the stake in 4 public sector banks here. These particular public sector banks which are listed here are IDBI Bank, Bank of Maharashtra, Punjab and Sindh Bank and UCO Bank. Apart from the objective under Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, one other very important reason why Government of India wants to sell the stake in this particular PSBs is to generate revenues. Again and again we have discussed this particular point that because of the pandemic, the pressure on the financials of the center has increased. The tax revenues have been coming down abruptly, whereas the expenditures have been skyrocketing. one of the ways that government of India intends to bridge this particular gap is by generating revenues in the market by selling the stake in these particular public sector banks. Apart from this, it also says that the government of India owns the stake in these particular 4 PSBs either directly or indirectly. So this is gist of the article given with respect to the public sector banks. The next article is related to reimagining and reinventing the Indian economy. Again, this is more of a descriptive question based answer or article which will help you in writing a descriptive question. What kind of a question? For example, the question is how do you revive the Indian economy? Right? How do you or what measures would you recommend to the government of India to revive the Indian economy? Many of the recommendations you can pick up from this particular article itself. This particular article appeared in Hindu on 18th of the August. Now basically understand this. The article as usual says that there has been a lot of issue with respect to financials in Indian economy. In recent times, the fiscal deficit has been rising. The overall debt of a government of India has been rising. So there is a need for the government of India to take certain measures in order to revive this particular Indian economy. Now, these particular measures which have been recommended in this particular article can be classified into the reforms which are required for big companies, reforms for MSME sector, reforms in case of startups, and reforms in terms of attracting investment of NRIs. Now, what are these particular recommendations? What measures have been given here? I will take up some of the very important recommendations. You can make a note of it and mug up them. If at all a question is asked in mains, these recommendations can be replicated. With respect to companies, this article discusses that the government of India should give certain tax exemption to these particular companies. The objective of giving tax exemption is with announcement of a tax exemptions, you might expect a revival of manufacturing, which will help in multiplier effect such as purchasing of the raw materials or employment generation, so on and so forth. In addition to this, it also says that certain measures should be taken. For example, make it easier for these particular companies to acquire raw materials. And when they acquire raw materials, the sales of vendors or suppliers will increase, demand for certain components in the market will increase, employment will be generated, and the economic revival can take place. Next recommendation is with respect to the loan recasting, which should be announced by RBI. This particular loan recasting measure which will be announced by RBI, which should be announced by RBI, will help in reducing the financial stress which is plaguing these particular companies. And please understand, when such very big companies will fall to the prey of the pandemic or because of the disruption which is created by the pandemic, there will be repercussions in the market. There will be unemployment created. Large number of MSMEs, vendors who are supplying the goods or services to this particular big company, they will also be forced to run out of the business. Again, which will add to lowering of consumption demand in the market, so on and so forth. Next recommendation is with respect to a 5-year plan which has to be prepared by Government of India. The objective of this particular 5-year plan will be to attract 60% of these particular companies which are moving out of China. Because we have seen that lots of these particular companies are moving out of China because of issues such as trade war with USA. Now, these particular companies which are moving out of China, though some of them are coming to India, it is very important for India to attract many of these particular companies, and that is what this particular recommendation says. Next, the government of India will have to develop India as a global trading hub. Basically, provide certain incentive regime which will attract a lot of international companies and will prompt up these particular domestic companies to use India as a trading hub. Next, states should establish a contained industrial settlements or industrial cities which will not only lead to development of the economic infrastructure but also social infrastructure. Next, Government of India should encourage sunrise sectors such as battery manufacturing. Please understand, this particular sector is very important because Government of India on one side is promoting the concept of electric vehicles in India, 2-wheeler, 4-wheeler, so on and so forth. There's a lot of promotion of renewable energy sector in India. But for all of these particular electronic related sectors, one of the very important components will be batteries. And Government of India needs to take certain initiative to develop this particular sector or promote this particular sector in India. This will not only promote the development of these industries, it will also reduce the dependence of India from various imports which are coming from other countries such as China. Next, India is amongst one of the countries with a huge or one of the topmost startup ecosystem. But even before the pandemic, it was seen that the startups were facing certain financial issues. And these particular issues has led to huge amount of a stress on these particular startups. So Government of India needs to address the startups or the stress in the startups. Auto industry, which contributes significantly into the generation of employment, promotion of exports, contribution to GDP, contribution to manufacturing GDP, is under stress. Government of India should provide certain special measures to address the issues of this particular sector. In addition to this, Government of India should provide this particular idea of a plug and play. Basically, with respect to certain important critical measures such as land acquisition. This particular concept of a plug and play is also referred to as a turnkey project or turnkey model. In case of India, one of the structural issues with respect to attracting large number of MNCs or let's say promotion of a development of manufacturing in India is acquisition of a land. What can Government of India do in this particular regard? The article has recommended a turnkey model or plug and play model, wherein government will acquire the land, make it easier for the private sector companies to basically take over the land on lease for many years. And the process of getting the required licenses, so on and so forth, will be made very easy for them, which this will attract a lot of companies into India. And finally, with respect to the foreign investment or the investment which is coming through the NRIs, Government of India will have to take certain measures and treat this particular investment on par with the investments coming from the domestic market. So by taking these particular measures, the Government of India can reinvent as well as reimagine and revive the Indian economy in the coming years. These are some of the very important articles as well as the questions related to these particular articles for this particular time period. Thank you. Have a good day.